kitty. Henson says hello.
Stella, aren't you jealous?
Oh, Stella has her toy too. Yeah, you guys play. Hello there. Welcome to Artfully Sew, where we get creative with our sewing, quilting, and upcycling projects. Today is an upcycling project day. My name is Angela, and I love to take old things and make them new. Today I'm going to use this hat as a reference and an old pattern that I have bought at a thrift store to make a new hat out of a pair of embroidered jeans. These pair of jeans were my favorite jeans from long ago, and they don't fit me anymore. So I loved the embroidery on it, and I thought it would be fun to make a hat out of it. The main reason I'm making a new hat is because my daughter Nora loves to wear this hat, and she likes to borrow it a lot. Good day, sunshine. But this is a very special hat to me because my friend Alison, who you've seen in the past videos before, we were college roommates, and she made me this hat. Actually, the hat is from Gap, and then she hand embroidered all of the flowers on there. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I added this pin that I made, and I put it over the top of this space because over the years it got a little faded there, because this is probably from 1992. This hat has been worn many places. I used to love to wear it when I lived in Madison, playing in the folk scene at coffee houses and things with my cousin Sarah, and it was the perfect hat for that. But I still like to wear it now and then. In my opinion, nation, the sun is gonna surely shine. But anyway, it means a lot to me, and I want to keep it for myself to wear. But I thought it would be fun to make one for Nora so she could have one as well. Sometimes I don't need a pattern and I can kind of make things by looking at it, but I was really lucky and found a pattern at St. Vinny's for hats. I mean, look at all of the hats that I could make from this pattern. And I'm so thankful, because sometimes patterns are like puzzles from the thrift store. You're not sure you're going to get all the pieces. This has all the pieces, and none of them were cut out. None of them were used. All the directions were there. So I'm like super excited, because this isn't the only hat I'm going to make. As I looked at the patterns, I felt like this one was closest to this hat. It looked about the same. So I decided to go with that pattern. When I'm using a pattern, I like to make a copy of all the piecing. Those pieces are made out of really flimsy paper. I like to trace the pattern onto and then save those pieces, because especially with this kind of pattern, I'm going to be using the top and the brim and things in multiple hats, not just this one specific design. So it's important to save that and keep them from getting ruined. Since some of these pieces are pretty big, I like to tape them to a big window and then use the light through the window to trace versus using like a light board. Also, make sure you transfer all the numbers and the lines and the seams and things so that you have that on this new cutout piece. As you can see, some of the pattern pieces are really big. So I'm going to need to piece the jeans together to make it fit on some of those pattern pieces. But the first step is taking apart the jeans so I can lay them flat and figure out how much fabric I have. It's really hard to make that first cut, but once you do, you can just go and rip it all up and it's not a big deal. I start with the side seams and just rip those out as far as I could. When you get to the pockets, there's extra places to kind of trim because they purposely sew those tighter so that they don't rip. So a nice sharp pair of little trimming scissors are really helpful. I also ran into some of the decorative what are those things called? They're like the little round metal things that they're almost like snaps, but they're not. I was gonna try to pull them out and they just mushed. So I ended up cutting around that instead, taking out the pocket and laying it out flat to see what I had to work with. So on this hat, there is the outside rim that goes around the whole base of the hat. There's the top piece that goes on the top. And then with the brim, there's the inside piece. I call this the inside piece because actually I like to flip it up so you're not going to see that part as much. And then this part, the outside rim. Of course, there's lining on the inside, which I ended up using a muslin fabric because I didn't want it to be too thick. But as I laid out those jeans, I thought, boy, that embroidery would look really cute along the edge of the hat. And then I also wanted to make sure that when I flip the brim up like this, that there would be embroidery that would show up right here as well. The jeans turned out to be just the right size. I had to fudge a little bit because the seam allowance was really tight, but I took into account that that's gonna go on the inside, and so even though that's a little frayed and cut there, it should get hidden in the sewing when I sew it together. Because the piece was so tight, I wanted to make sure that I cut it exactly, so I use pins. Sometimes when I'm in a hurry, I don't use pins, and I usually pay for that later. So on this pair of jeans, both sides had embroidery kind of by the pockets and down the side of the legs. So the one leg was for this part around the outside, but then I wanted to make sure that at the very top, there was some embroidery as well. So I used the other leg to cut that out to use for the top of the hat. When I was cutting out the jeans, I had to make sure that there was enough space for that, so there ended up being some extra embroidery up by the top of the pocket. And I thought, well, I'm going to save this piece because maybe that could end up being part of the brim later on. It turned out that that worked perfectly for the very front. For the inside part of the brim that's up here, I just pieced together some of the scraps to make it work for the brim. And then I pieced together a whole bunch of others to make it work for the outside part of the brim for the two sides. In the end, I had just enough fabric from the jeans to make this hat, and it turned out really cute. You want to see it? You like it, Stella? So jeans upcycled into a hat. How fun is that? So now I can still wear my favorite jeans, but I guess I have to borrow this hat from Nora because I made it for her. Oh well, now we can share each other's hats. I did give it to her for her birthday and she loved it. Some of you have been asking about Nora in New York City, and she absolutely loves it. She's having a blast. But she let me borrow her hat for a while. I guess what goes around comes around, right? I also like that you can also like flip this hat up and wear it like this too. I suppose you could wear it down all the way. This would look nice with a pair of sunshades. I like the scrappy brim. Isn't that fun? One thing I did forget to mention is that I did use interfacing in here. Interfacing is a type of a fabric that you can add to make something more stiff and more firm. You can buy it at any craft store. Just ask someone at the craft store, they can help you find it. This was a sew-in interfacing, it wasn't the iron-on kind. But it does help to keep the brim stiff. I like it this way. I'm kind of channeling Blossom right now or something.
Don't know about the future, that's anybody's guess. Ain't no good reason for getting all depressed.
I hope you got some great ideas and that you be brave and try things. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how you learn. If you enjoyed watching this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Also, if you want to show some extra love, feel free to donate through the link in the description below, so I can keep making more videos for you. Well, thanks for watching, and remember, you can artfully sew. Bye! Don't be afraid to make How do you do bangs with a hat?